Africa as a continent is a place that has so much resources, so much potential, and so many goods that could come out for the people of the land. But when you think about Africa, you think about poverty, you think about hunger, you think about wars, and you think about famine. I go by the name of Everbetter Oganetega, reporting for the Alpha Ridge right here in Pretoria, South Africa. And this is the day one of the African Governance Architecture Expert Seminar to commemorate the 10 years of the ACDEG. We have delegates in there from different African countries having the conversation, but we today want to have conversations with these delegates, asking them what they think is the major thing or the major potential that Africans need to focus on to have development on the continent. South Africa, as we see today, has development, but can we say the same for every other African country right there? Let's go have a chat with them and let's hear their opinions, and hopefully these ideas will become a start for the African nation. What are key areas of opportunities that we need to focus our attention on to get development for Africa?
I think that question cannot be answered broadly. You have to look at a specific context and a specific country. But what is important for Africa now is to always identify in each country those sectors which have growth potential. And by growth potential, I also mean sectors which are capable of producing inclusive, job-rich growth. And now looking at sectors also which have a larger multiplier effect on the local economy. Now most of the focus we see on the continent is in extractives, in gold, in oil and gas. But what we should understand is that these sectors do not have large multiplier effects on the local economy because they basically employ a few people, which is different from if, for example, you invest in cotton processing, in coffee processing. These sectors have potential to create large multiplier effects because one, they employ the local population, and these they use products from local farmers, and the money they earn are spent in restaurants, they are spent in schools, they are spent in hospitals. So money somehow which comes from these sectors remain within the economy. So it's not just how much you get, but the potential of the money from a certain sector to spur growth within the local economy.
I think that for this celebration of the African Charter on Democracy, Election, and Governance in Africa, what we can have in mind, especially in terms of the various interventions that have been calling for democracy that also goes in hand with development. African countries should be focusing more on three key issues. Of course, one is the agricultural sector, because we cannot talk about democracy if we are unable to feed African people. Out of more than 1 billion African people, there are many hundreds of millions that go hungry to bed, and that is not democracy if we cannot feed them. The second area of democracy, which goes together with development, is to make sure that we are able to provide health services to all African people.
So following from the conversations which I've had in the room since we started the seminar, it seems that neoliberal policies are hurting Africa, and it appears that we are still stuck as suppliers. We haven't moved from that historically. You know, we were enslaved, we were colonized, we were assimilated to produce raw materials. And even now in 2017, that's where we mostly are stuck. And then there has been the question of rethinking how the state relates to its citizens. And we've been asked to rethink that. And I feel that it's contradictory given that African states do not prioritize economic and social rights. That's the right to education, food, health, work. Because if as for citizens to be able to engage the states in an effective manner and to hold the states accountable, they need to be educated. And even not to be hungry, so that it's not a dilemma for me to actually demand for my rights or to actually spend my time feeding myself. So I feel if we're able to rethink our economic policies at the international level and how that affects our continent, so that it trickles down to empower citizens. Then citizens are able to engage with their governments effectively and also demand for their rights.
Thank you very much for having me on your program. I think one of the things that Africa has in abundance is the human resource capital. We need to ensure that we invest in our people, we invest in skills that are requisite for us to be able in various sectors in order to improve on our economies.
I actually feel like the different areas that should be targeted. Yeah, on the political or policy side, we need better laws. We also need proper institutions, like institutions that are strong enough to be able to implement those laws. And then we need better, corporate governance, especially how to be able to transform our economies from not merely primary resource-based economies to economies that can be able to, add value to our primary resources, which are so many in Africa. We have so many resources, primary resources, oil, minerals, that different countries will come to Africa to be able to get this. But it's unfortunate that we cannot be able to transform this in Africa in order to add value, create jobs, and and improve growth in our countries. So I think that what we should do, especially in this sector of primary resource exploitation, is to see how we can be able to transform these resources more in Africa than exporting these resources, often at prices that we cannot determine, to countries that will transform them and then come to sell them to us at prices that we cannot even afford. Someone had said that there is a cocoa farmer in Akwapim or a coffee cultivator in Chaga who cannot even be able to afford, chocolate in his house, or even drink tea every morning with his family. So it's unfortunate, and I think this is some thinking that has to, and conversation that has to happen around how we can, as Africans, begin to transform our economies ourselves.